Chapter 19. Trolls, Witches, and Poison Apples. The trolls heaved and grunted at the sight of me. They smacked their lips. "Well done, brother. Looks like your trap caught us a nice, tasty boy." "But I wanted a goat," said the first troll. "Oh, no. A boy is even better, much more succulent. Practically a feast." They all snorted and hopped up and down. "He's awful skinny. Do you think his legs will have any meat?" "I get the fingers. They look like the juiciest part of him." "I'll take the rear. I've been longing for a rump roast." I couldn't help it. I started laughing. Rump roast. My destiny was to be eaten. He laughed. "I like this human. Let's eat him now." The trolls closed in on me and licked their lips with horribly long gray tongues. I twisted and writhed, trying to free myself. If I could just get down, I had a sliver of a chance of getting away, but it was of no use. My bindings only tightened with my squirming, and the trolls were now packed in a circle around me. I squeezed my eyes shut and prepared for the worst. "Wait!" said a troll. I opened my eyes. The troll held out his arms to stop the others from coming closer. Maybe he wanted to eat me all by himself. He sniffed hard through his fat, misshapen nose. "Do you smell that?" The other trolls sniffed too and stalked forward until they were all right up close. From upside down, I could see straight up their noses, all hairy and slimy. "He smells," said one troll. "Not like most humans," finished another. "Cut him down," said the first troll, "and don't let him go." It was hard to tell from upside down, but I thought the trolls looked a little confused. With a quick slash, I was released and fell right at the feet of my captor. I looked up at him and squealed. He was terrifyingly ugly and smelled even worse. "Bring him over near the fire," he told the others. "Marv will want to see this." The fire. They didn't want to eat me cold. The trolls dragged me through the leaves like a dead rabbit. I couldn't speak or even move. "Scared out of his senses," laughed one troll. "We have that effect on humans." The trolls dragged my limp body farther into the trees until we reached a small clearing where there was a large fire and even more trolls sitting around it. They released me, and I scrambled to my hands and knees to search for a way to escape. But I was surrounded by smelly, ugly, man-eating trolls. A pot of some stinking brood was boiling over a fire. Maybe they intended to cook me in that. "What's this?" said a girl troll. The only reason I thought it was a girl was because her voice was slightly higher, and she had 2 long tangled braids. Otherwise, she looked the same as the rest. "This boy tried to eat the apples," said the troll, dragging me. "Of course he did," said the girl troll. "But what did you bring him here for?" "Bork did it," said one. "He said not to let him go." The first troll, the one they called Bork, reached down and lifted me up by the back of my shirt with one hand. I flailed my arms as I hung in the air. "Smell him, Mard," said Bork. The girl troll bent down and sniffed a little, and then a lot. I held my breath so I wouldn't have to sniff her. Finally, her eyes widened, and she looked up at Bork. "Strange," said the girl troll. I guess her name was Mard. "I know," said Bork. "I almost wish he had eaten one of those apples just to see what would have happened." A few trolls growled at Bork. They all seemed to think he had something really horrible. A few of the trolls closed in on me. Maybe they thought the apples would spoil the taste of their dinner. All this talk of food was making me hungry, and if I couldn't eat before I died, I'd like to die quickly. "Could we get this over with, please?" I said. The trolls looked at me, confused. I guess they didn't often have people begging to be eaten. "Get what over with?" said one. "Who do you think you are, making demands?" "Well, I've been through a lot, and I could use a break, so if you could just eat me fast." The trolls were all silent for a moment as they looked from each other to me and back to each other. Then they all started laughing. Or I guess they were laughing. Their bodies were heaving like laughter, but the laughs sounded more like growls and howls and snorts. Bork suddenly released me, and I fell to the ground with a grunt. All my sore bones screamed at me. "He's begging us to eat him," said a troll. "We don't really want to eat you. What of you is there to eat?" "But," I started. "Here," Mard, the girl troll, handed me a cup of what looked like steaming mud, or something worse. "You must be hungry, seeing as you're trying to eat those apples. Have some sludge." The sludge was greenish-brown, and it stank and moved. All the trolls were slurping it down like it was honey, but that made it even less appetizing. I looked down at the sludge and then looked back up at the trolls. "You're not going to eat me?" said a troll, another girl, I thought. It was still hard to tell. "It's a bit of a joke that humans believe we'll eat them," said Bort. "And they think they actually taste good. So vain. But it keeps them away, mostly." "Away?" "Away from us," said Mard. "Humans are trouble dressed up pretty, especially that greedy idiot King Bartholomew, or whatever his silly name is." "What kind of trouble?" I asked. "Humans, I mean." "We always thought it was trolls who were trouble." "And that's the way we like it," said Bork. The other trolls gagged and spit in agreement. "If those greedy humans didn't think we'd gobble them up, they'd try and make slaves out of us." "Slaves? But why?" I asked. All the trolls looked in different directions and shifted uncomfortably. "Never mind why," said Mard. "The humans take one look at any living creature and think only of how they can use it. So we've made ourselves out to be villains," said Bork. "Isn't that smart?" "It's not smart if you're going to tell him," said a troll wearing a helmet with deer horns. "He's a human too, you know." "He's not like the rest. Can't you smell it on him?" said Bork. "I can," said Deerhorns. "Smell what on me?" I tried to sniff myself. I was pretty dirty, but I couldn't smell anything over the rancid odor of the trolls and their sludge. The trolls looked at each other cautiously. "Never mind that," said Mard. "We're not going to eat you." I was still a little suspicious, sitting here in the midst of all these trolls who kept saying that I smelled. "What are you trying to catch by the apple tree if you don't eat humans?" "Bork's trying to catch a pet," said Mard. "He's always wanted a pet." "I wanted a goat," said Bork forlornly. "Not a boy." "Drink your sludge," said Mard. I looked down at the cup full of mystery mud. My stomach grumbled, but I wasn't sure I was hungry enough to drink this. I wish I had the meat pie, which was back by the road with nothing. I thought about those juicy red apples just sitting on the tree. Maybe trolls didn't like apples. Maybe they thought they tasted like mud, and mud tasted like sweet fruit. Maybe they didn't know humans would rather eat apples than mud. "What's wrong with apples?" I asked. "What's wrong with apples?" said Deerhorns. "Did you ever see an apple tree full of ripe apples this early in the year?" I thought for a moment. "Actually, I've never seen an apple tree at all. They don't grow on the mountain. Where I'm from, I've only seen apples off the tree." "Well, that's no ordinary apple tree," said Mard. Bork leaned over the fire to speak to me. He had as much hair on his arms as I did on my head. "It's poisoned," he said. "You could have died. Or worse. You should thank us." "Thank you?" I said. "To sludge," said Bork, lifting his cup. "And no poison apples." The rest of the trolls grunted. "To sludge!" And they slurped down their drinks. Then they all watched me expectantly. I guess I had to drink it, or be considered impolite. What did trolls do with impolite guests? I put it to my mouth and took a sip. It tasted like rotten vegetables, and it was slimy, and I think I swallowed a worm. The trolls all smiled and nodded. "Ah, that's the stuff. Sets you up for life. Makes you big and strong." I wanted to ask more questions, partly because I was curious, but mostly so I wouldn't have to drink more of the sludge. "How do you know the apples are poisoned?" One poisoned apple seemed believable, but an entire tree of them was strange. "Oh, the apples again," said Deerhorns. "We'd best tell him the story, shouldn't we?" "You tell it, Bork." "Why me? You tell it, Slop." "You found the boy," said Deerhorns, or Slop. "And you make the story sound so pretty." Bork grumbled under his breath, but when he started speaking, his voice was low and dramatic. "A long time ago, there was a witch, see? She was the queen of some other kingdom, far from here. Beyond yonder, beyond even. She tried to kill her stepdaughter because she was jealous of her beauty. Gran used to tell me the story. It was one of my favorites. The girl ran away and lived with the dwarves, but the witch queen found her out and fed her a poisoned apple, one that would make her fall asleep forever. But it didn't work, because a prince woke her with true love's first kiss and all that, and she lived happily ever after with her prince. That was where Grand's story ended. But Bort kept going and told a story I didn't know. But the witch's poison apple didn't die. The dwarves, careless creatures, threw it down the mountain and it fell in the dirt. Soon the apple was dirt itself, but the seeds didn't turn to dirt. Those seeds took root and grew into an apple tree. A magical poison apple tree. Magic, I said. How do you know it's magic? The troll shifted and looked around. Because, said Slop as he scratched his horns, the fruit is ripe year-round. What but magic can make it ripe all year long? They all nodded and grunted in agreement. But I sensed there was something they weren't telling me. So if I ate the apples, I would have fallen asleep forever, I asked. Until true love's first kiss, maybe. That sounded as good as dead to me. True love was for fair princes and maidens and knights in shining armor. The only girl I was even friends with was Red, and I think she'd rather hit me in the face than kiss me. Maybe she could punch me awake. Have you ever seen someone eat those apples? No, said Bort. Then how do you know they're poison? Something about the apples intrigued me. A deer ate those apples once, said Slop. I saw him, and the next day we found him dead. He rubbed the horns on his helmet. Wolves got him, Slop, said Bort. Those weren't wolves. Those apples ate him from the inside out. Enough about death and fruit, said Mard. Eat your sludge. The trolls all got busy slurping and snorting, and so I did my best to blend in by holding my cup to my lips. Every now and then I spilled a little behind me until my cup was empty. But unluckily for me, trolls are very hospitable. And Mard took my cup and plunged it into the pot of sludge. She handed it back to me with sludge dripping down the sides. You need more meat on you. Eat. I ate another worm. It wriggled down my throat. So, said another troll as he slurped the last of his sludge, this one looked very old. All the trolls had wrinkles, but this one's skin had wrinkles inside of wrinkles, and his tangled hair had streaks with white. I heard the king got married. King Bartha. You married? Said Bort. Who would marry such an ugly thing? I heard the girl can make things gold. Straw, I said. She makes straw into gold. A witch, said Slop, the horn troll. The king married a witch. I can smell the trouble from here. I wouldn't get within 10 steps of that witch, said Bort. Well, people don't come within 10 steps of us, and we're not bad, said another troll. The witch who made that apple was bad, said Bort. Others grunted their agreement. I wondered if my mother's family in yonder were all witches. Were they very nice witches or mean witches? Maybe Mother was really running from them. But they're not all bad, are they? I asked. Some witches try to help. Witches don't help, said Mard. They just make more trouble. You would know, said a big troll, and Marge whacked him on the back of the head with her club-like arm. He whacked her back. Then all the trolls started whacking each other, and they rolled and wrestled on the ground. I stood quickly, spilling sludge all down my shirt. A couple of trolls came very near the fire, and sparks flew up in the air before they rolled away laughing in their grunty, snorty way. It seemed this was common troll after-dinner play. I looked on as trolls wrestled and snorted and punched each other, almost enjoying the scene until one troll suddenly sank down into the ground, beneath some leaves. All the trolls gasped. Quickly they hauled the troll out and began shoveling leaves over the place where he'd fallen. Marv waddled over to me and tried to turn me around. But then another troll slipped on the edge. Soon the entire mass of leaves were scattered, revealing something the trolls did not want me to see. I broke away from Marv. Beneath the leaves was a hole, and in the hole was a huge stash of curious objects. A boot, a mirror, lots of little boxes and trinkets that looked old and valuable, a coil of golden rope that looked oddly like hair, a shimmering cloak, and a golden harp. The harp was playing all by itself.